when you meet him, you admire him. It's almost like he's your hero because of all he's gone through. He's had chemo and radiation, and he's had 3 operations.
He was, in his mind, a normal kid. He was, in our mind, anything but.
I feel like I'm normal like everyone else, but I have a different perspective on life.
He, on the outside, looks normal. He wants to be treated normally, and that's how he wants to live his life, and that's how he wants us to treat him. But we do know when you have a brain tumor, there's deficits. You know, you have all the hopes that any parent has. We wanted him to just be able to, as a baby, to roll over, to sit up, to ride a bike, to go to school and not have to struggle through school.
We had big plans like every parent does for him, that he was going to live a normal, healthy life, and a lot of things changed dramatically that night.
I put him to bed, and then I watched the news, and he came over and said he couldn't sleep. So I put him in my bed, and I said, just stay here for a while. I figured he'd fall asleep while I watched the news, and I'd take him back over. And all of a sudden, he was next to me, and I could feel his arm. He kept hitting me, and I said, Jordan, what are you doing? And he didn't answer me, and I looked over at him, and he was having a seizure. And I had never seen a seizure before, so it was frightening.
And I couldn't believe this was happening. They were going to immediately transfer him to Children's Hospital because they had noticed something on his brain that they thought definitely was irregular and probably a tumor.
When they said it was a spot on his brain,
we feared when we heard this prognosis
immediately I thought
it meant
he was just going to die. I thought it was cancer.
After a while, it just becomes something you get used to, and there's you never know anything different.
At that young, they really don't know what's going on, and we were happy about that. I felt like at least he doesn't know. He just won't remember.
He certainly at 3 years of age didn't understand what was going on, and showed no fear at that time and never has.
What I remember the night before the operation, they shaved his head just on the one side, so he had hair on one side and no hair on the other. I guess they leave it up to the parents whether you just want to shave his head entirely, but the only thing he said to me that night, I was laying in his bed with him, and he said he was feeling his hair, and his hair was gone, and he said, will I ever have hair again? And that made me cry. You know, that was really hard. They had to cut a horseshoe-size incision on his head and then cut into the bone, and just to get through the bone, that was 2 hours. After the 2 hours, then they operated. So total, by the time they cut in, operated, put the bone back, re-sewed his head, it was a total of 8 hours.
It's hard to describe how long a day is when you're sitting in a waiting room for 8 hours waiting for your child to come out of brain surgery. I would not wish it on anyone. I hate to even think back on those days.
His tumor was in his motor skills area, which is the worst area. It's the speech, walking, a lot of functioning processes there. So it was hard. It was hard for him to learn to ride a bike. He had to work 3 times as hard in school just to get the A's and B's and some C's that other kids could kind of slack off and get. He always had to work harder.
After a seizure, it's like a workout for your brain, and you're just so tired. It like works you out. And I remember having a seizure during a test one time in school, and it stopped, and I was just looking at my test, and I knew what I wanted to put down, but I couldn't think about how to do it because my brain just wasn't working correctly. And I got up and I went to tell the teacher that I had something that happened to me, and I had to go to the office, but I couldn't even think about what to say just because it just totally works out your brain until all you have to do is just go sleep or take a rest until you've recovered from it.
When he was 14, he started having seizures again, but they were different this time. They were just staring. He would stare off into space for, it could be 10 seconds, 20, 30, depending. And when he was doing that, you could be talking to him, he wouldn't answer. If he was playing basketball, he'd just stop and stand there, and he wouldn't move. this was really hard. This would happen in school. I would run up to the school, and every time they would call me.
I do believe God blessed him with an amazing sense of patience and work ethic, because I don't know how he could get through some of the things he does. He would come out of a seizure and smile at us and say he was okay, like wanting to make us know it was all right, which was always incredible to me, that a kid was thinking of someone else other than himself when he had such a struggle on his hands.
They put him through radiation, and we went every day for weeks while he was in grade school. I would drive him every day to his radiation. He'd have the process in the morning, and I'd take him right to school, so he never missed a day of school throughout radiation. Right after that, we did chemo for 8 months. He did lose his hair. It was hard on him. He was really sick and nauseated.
Basketball was like the biggest thing in my life at that point. All my friends were basketball players, and to be told that you can't do that, I remember sitting in the doctor's office and crying. Even into high school, when they told me I had to go through my third surgery, that's when I was really into cross country, and they said, you know, you can't run for the rest of the season, which was another tough thing that I had to deal with.
Well, the night before that operation in 2000, a doctor came in, and she was trying to stimulate different areas of his brain with currents, and she thought this would help her map out where his motor skills are.
They were just making different parts of my body move, and they had a problem, and my whole right side of my body just went numb, and apparently they said that they screwed up and caused me to have a stroke.
His face started sagging. His whole side went limp.
He couldn't speak, and he couldn't move the right part of his body, which was terrifying.
I picked up my arm and dropped it, and it didn't move. Like, it was just like it wasn't even there. It had no feeling at all.
My saddest moment of that was he was trying to talk to me. This is a 15 or 16-year-old kid trying to talk to me, and he just kept saying, "Why can't I? Why I can't?" He couldn't even get the words out to express. Then he was scared, and there was nothing I could tell him other than it was going to be all right.
You know, we just prayed a lot. We went to the chapel at the hospital. I would make visits at our church, and we knew a lot of people were praying because they'd call at the hospital, they'd call at home and leave messages. So there's nothing you can do. You know, people would say, "Oh, you're so strong," but you really aren't. You just have to move forward. You have no choice.
With conditions or situations like this, it was that I started to see what was important in life and what wasn't important in life, and that how important health was, how important family was. What was important was the fact that he was alive.
But I have a different perspective on life from all the different things that I've been through, and I'm a lot more humble, and I don't take things for granted at all.
We really do believe, and the doctor even said they have no explanation for it, that it's almost like a miracle, so he came through it.
And obviously he surprised all of us by participating in 4 years of varsity cross country and track, and graduating on time, not only with his major, but with 2 other minors.
And that's really my main motivation, is inspiring others to reach their potential and push themselves the extra mile. And when I hear people tell me that that seeing me push myself as hard as I can makes me want to give my best, that's what really makes me keep going.